guys, welcome to USD CAD's Outlook. In this video guys, I'm going to be reviewing, is USD CAD due for a reversal, warranting the continuation of that initial impulse that started at March? Stay tuned guys to find out more. So let's get right into it guys. So as we were saying on the webinar back on Monday, we were stating that if USD CAD failed to break out of its continuation pattern that was being formed on the 1 hour time frame after breaking out of the consolidation box that was found on the 4 hour, we were stating that that could be the first sign of the bullish reversal, which would warrant the continuation of the initial impulse that started back in March, right? And that was something that we were stating for the past 2 weeks, right? We were stating, guys, that one, all of these bullish dollar movements were to be treated as short-term coaster, right? And so as of right now, anything you take here should be warranted as a higher risk exposed trade simply because of the extendedness of the structure, as well as short term simply because we only have a short term direction up compared to the downside. And two, to be treated as relief and as a correction. And the reason being, guys, is because taking a look at dollar index's structure as well as looking at all the dollar pairs across the board, we can see that they were in some serious selling pressure for quite some time, right? And so the current pullback that we're receiving right now is nothing to be surprised about, simply for the fact that we just warranted it as relief, right? You know, someone has to take profit in such a movement like this, right? And so one thing that we were saying was that all of these movements right now were to be treated as short term and as potentially warranted as a higher risk exposed trade or a more of aggressive trade, simply because we never know when that big downfall is coming to happen, which we were stating that, guys, right? And another reason why, especially on USD CAD, we were so adamant about when are the sellers going to start entering the market once again was because especially taking into consideration the Bank of Canada's economics and how they're structuring their economics and where they're looking to see their current rate of their currency within the next coming months, next coming quarters, as well as into 2019, right? And we know that they're structuring their economic outlook for appreciation, right? Which makes sense if you even take a look at it from a technical perspective, right? You guys can see from just the weekly time frame, the behavioral side of it, which is taught in my course, guys, titled Behavioral Analysis. If you guys are interested, you guys can find all the information down below in the description box, in which you guys can see that the behavior of it is the impulse, followed by a nice, long relief, right? It's nothing too aggressive. It's nice and consolidated. And then we receive another impulse, right? And now we can see that we were in a nice long-term, profit-taking, consolidated, bullish run, right? And it's nothing to be so surprised about, simply because this is how the Bank of Canada wants to set up their current economy. And so it makes sense, one, what's currently happening in reference to the policies and decisions that they're implementing, and secondly, having NAFTA involved, as well as some of the other things that are being factored into the Canadian appreciation, right? But the one thing, guys, that and the reason why I'm bringing up the fundamental aspects is because it makes sense now why we were stating, right, when is that coming about? Because we know ideally when the institutions and the banks are going to start pumping in money, right? Even though we're technical traders in the end of the day and we're price action traders, it's very important that you have a good understanding of the economic outlook within that given economy. Simply for the fact that you understand when structure might be reaching potential areas that might not be so good for the economy, which you can understand then if these big reversals come about, why they just suddenly happened, right? And so taking a look at it from the daily time frame right now, we can definitely see here, guys, that the 128 to 130 handle was definitely regarded as a very tough area to crack for one reason. You can see every single time that the bullish movements attempted to break that handle, we receive a lot of consolidation and a lot of false breaks, which is why we were stating that any trades to be taken above this area were warranted as high risk because of that. We are looking at structure and seeing, what is the opportunity to the upside? And it was very slim, right? But there was still an opportunity. And so let's go into the 1 hour and see how this broke down. So we can see here, guys, that the current trend that we were in at that current moment was this, followed by this one right here, right? And we can see here that structure did make an initial impulse, breaking out of that consolidation that started on the 23rd. And then from there, we saw a nice pullback, consolidated profit-taking movement, right? That caused a flag, continuation pattern, whatever you'd like to call it. From there, guys, what we were stating was if USD CAD is able to break out of this flag and break the tops, you could expect one more bull run up and move your stops as quickly as you possibly can, as we are still expecting that drop to occur. But we did state that if CAD fails to break out and break those tops, right, then from there, we're expecting structure to come and break these lows. And if it does break out, then that can be the first initiation of the bullish reversal and the continuation of that initial impulse that we saw. Now, we did attempt to take this trade as dollar was giving false signs, but unfortunately, we did get stopped out on this trade for a very minuscule loss, and it's okay because now we are looking to take the continuation of this impulse in the other direction. And thankfully, the other trades that we did signal on pound, UJ, as well as euro, were able to take care of this. So that was the beautiful thing about it. And the one thing, guys, that you've taken into consideration was that this was a trade that we were willing to give it a shot, right? We knew that it was a higher risk exposed trade. We knew that it was short term. We were willing to give it a shot, right? And you know what? It didn't work out for us, and that's fine because you know what? We weren't set on, our hearts weren't set on, getting a significant return on this trade, right? It was, okay, let's attempt it. If we get it, great. If we don't, no biggie. Let's see what happens. And so since we falsely broke the tops of this consolidation and we broke right back inside, breaking out of not only this trend, but also this trend as well, definitely told us that, you know what? The bears are here and they have arrived. And so now the question becomes, where are we going to be moving? And this is what you guys are all here for. Well, one thing to factor in is that regardless of what my outlook is right now, guys, we do have Canadian dollar news that is going to be coming out at 8:30 a.m. EST, which is about 12 hours now from when I am recording this. And so the outlook can completely change simply because the data that's expected to be released is supposed to bring USD CAD into a high volatile state in which we know there's going to be a lot of volatility and a lot of liquidity that could cause price to whipsaw around or potentially cause false or indicate false directions in one way or another. So the outlook can change. But as of right now, if we take a look at it from a weekly time frame, just to go into it, we can definitely see, guys, that we are in fact rejecting the 130 handle. And if we do in fact close like this or even further down, this will definitely show us that we are due for further continuation to the downside, simply because it is forming a pin bar or a bearish hammer, some like to call it, and we should start to target the 126, 50 handle, round to 126 handle, and potentially even lower. Pulling it to the daily time frame, guys, first and foremost, we do have this false break of the tops being received right there. And secondly, guys, we do have the lows being broken, giving us indication from the longer time frame perspective that this is now continuing, because this was the relief. We have just in fact created lower lows. Structure is telling us that it is time to continue to the downside. And if we take a look at it from a more zoomed out perspective, we can definitely see here that between the 128, guys, and 130 handle is very difficult for the buyers, right? And we can definitely see here between the 125.90 to around the 126.70, 80 handle, it's very difficult for the sellers sometimes to break through, right? And so we have a nice clean area to be trading within before we may start to incur some type of deceleration, exhaustion, or pullback from looking at it from a zone perspective. Now, taking one thing into consideration, guys, is that this is very impulsive and showing no signs of exhaustion or deceleration at this current moment. But at some point, guys, we will expect some type of pullback, whether it's here or it continues to push down. We are going to expect a pullback to see continuation, right? Because a trend cannot just continue in one direction forever, as liquidation and profit taking needs to occur before you see continuation of that given direction. Pulling it into the 4-hour time frame right now, just want to let you know, guys, that my team is currently in this trade, but we are factoring in the data that is expected to be released at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is why we may change our outlook. We might even decide to get out of the trade if we are not liking the way price is forming leading into the pending data. But our goal is to move our stops into break even and run it through the data to give ourselves a chance that structure pushes through to our desired profit areas. Now, one thing to know is that if we do take that scenario and we put our stops to break even and we give it a shot, making it a risk-free trade, and we get stopped out, we can honestly care less, because you know what? The structure is still telling us that we gotta continue further to the downside unless we make a strong enough impulse to the upside based on what we currently see. And so we'll still look for continuations in that given direction. But looking at it from this perspective right now, there are a couple of different ways that structure can play out. One thing that you guys need to take into consideration when taking trend continuation trades is how is the entire structure forming, right? And so we can see that we have two types of trends that we can see. We have one and we have two, right? And so the one thing to take into consideration is that this is a pretty strong impulse. And instead of forming a continuation pattern to continue down, right, structure just continued to fall. And with that, if we take a look at it from a even smaller time frame perspective, we can see that there is two types of formations that are currently happening. We can definitely see here that we are in a smaller term descending channel, and within the descending channel, you can see small term flag patterns that occur, which allow for continuation of this bearish momentum. One thing to take into consideration though, guys, is that if you understand how impulse and continuation patterns occur and things of this nature, you guys know that momentum occurs such as this. It'll make an impulse, a continuation, impulse, continuation, and so forth, right? And that starts creating your trend, right? Highs and lows, things of this nature. Structure has failed to do that in what we are looking at right now. And so at some point, guys, we want to take into consideration that structure, whether it breaks out here and goes, or it does it from here, that we're going to expect a pullback simply because this is a pretty extended movement. It's a pretty impulsive movement. At some point, someone is going to be taking profits and they're going to be liquidating their profits, right? Now, that's not to say, guys, that these small-term flag setups that are being seen within this descending channel are invalid to trade. Just the one thing that you need to factor in is A, what type of trade am I taking? And B, how is the overall structure of the trade forming out? How is it playing, right? And once you guys factor that in, then you guys have a better understanding of, am I taking a shorter term trade? Am I taking a longer term trade? What am I trying to do from a risk perspective, right? And once you factor all these in, then you guys have a solid set idea on how you guys need to approach your trade, right? And so if you guys took a trade after this, let's say ascending trend broke to see continuation of this descending channel, you guys would just tell yourself and be like, okay, I know that it's quite, I'm entering in an extended area. I'm not entering at the beginning of the roller coaster, but kind of in the middle, right? Looking at it from a 1 hour perspective right now. And so the one thing you want to take into consideration is that your goal is to move your stops as quickly as you possibly can, right? And you know what? If you don't end up getting the trade, you're just going to look for to see how structure develops and forms. And if structure pulls back, you know what? You just take the continuation of that and you run it straight back down. Now, like I said, guys, the one thing to take into consideration is that my team is in this trade right now. Our stops are above the previous highs, right? As well as we do have a desire to take profit areas. If you're interested in being a part of our team, you can find all the information down in the description box down below of this video. And so, like I said, guys, our outlook can change as this forms overnight and leading into the pending data tomorrow. And so we'll wait to see what happens in reference to USD CAD, but there is a great short opportunity coming up on USD CAD. And so pulling it to the daily time frame, guys, you can definitely see that we do have further movement to go in reference to the downside as we are just starting this bearish trend right now. And so I would not be surprised if this continues to push and even continues to push all the way down. But remember, guys, at some point we are expecting price to pull back before it starts to drop one last time to the monthly support. Our goal in the end of the day, guys, is that we are trying to solidify a good enough entry within this weekly area, hoping that we can get the push down to that weekly ascending trend, and even hoping that we can still manage this position all the way down to the lows. The one thing, guys, in the end of the day is that I am not stating we are hoping we get this trade, but what I am stating, guys, is that we are hoping that we can initiate a trade that becomes one of these type of movements. Remember, guys, we don't hope. We don't use any type of emotions when trading. I'm just simply stating in the end of the day that we are hoping that this is the last leg down to see the big continuation of the initial impulse of its entire behavior. Just like I went over in the beginning of the video, that is how CAD economics are structured right now. You receive an impulse, you receive a relief. You receive another impulse, and you receive another relief. If we get this trade and we receive that once again, we are going to be quite happy. So with that, guys, I hope you enjoyed this week's USD CAD Outlook, as well as looking at it from a short-term and longer-term perspective. Let me know what you guys think. Leave your comment down below in the comment section, as well as if you guys enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, as well as click that subscribe button. I really appreciate you guys taking time out to watch these videos. They help a lot when you guys give feedback. So please, please, please give some feedback. Once again, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you guys want to check out some of my other videos, you guys can see them on the screen listed above. Have a wonderful week, guys. Trade smart. I will see you guys in the next video.